Hi and welcome to another Repaint video. This is Hannah from Hoodles and today I'm sharing the process of a gift for my mother. She saw this mat stole and asked if I could make her one, and I kind of laughed it off because I'll never understand if people appreciate what I make. It is what it is. Then my younger brother came and he was like, "Bruh, you're gonna make a doll for Mom." So here we are. It stood between making another mat stole, but I decided on a musician. She's currently working as a cantor and plays the piano and organ. Music is kind of one of her passions. And well, musician in Swedish is musiker, but mus in Swedish is mouse. So I decided on Mouscedes King to make my musician. Let's prepare the head. First I cut off the hair close to the scalp. Then I scrape out the hair from the inside with a flat screwdriver. I was pondering what to do with the ears. In the end, I decided to make a pair of mouse ears since her own are so plastic looking, so I cut them off and then proceeded with removing the face up with acetone. Her mold is super cute. She has a pair of visible front teeth and huge eyes. I could have drawn smaller ones, but I decided to follow the lines this time, more or less. I used Schmincke, nope, still not sponsored, to airbrush some blushing. I've always found it hard to blush and brighten up Mouscedes, but this helped a lot. So I mixed some cyan, magenta and a lot of white. I went on feeling and mixed way too much, as usual. So, in the end, I used the excess on some yarn hair. We'll get back to that. The first layer, and I start with some outlines, water lines, iris and white. I was a bit worried in the beginning that the airbrush paint would scrape off with the pencils, but I had no problem as I would with regular acrylics, so that was a yay. Time for some teeth whitening, and after that, eyebrows. Why did I make a scar through one of the eyebrows? Well, I wanted her to be soft but kind of kick-ass, so I added some element of coolness and hoped that everything would be okay in the end. Second layer, I started by adding some yellow. In retrospect, I think that green would have been cool. Then I worked more on the white. I like adding white strands in the eyebrows, it makes them look less flat. Then I decided to draw some freckles, but drawing them like notes, just a fun thing to do, a spur of the moment and impulse decision. Third layer. I work a bit more on the mouth with watercolor pencils and pastels. Then I use blue pastels as usual, but it didn't show on her gray skin. I mean, I know that it's not skin, but I don't know what to call it. Then I brighten up her eyes before I draw the obligatory milk mustache. I use the flat end on the pencils and lightly give it some white in the middle to highlight her nose. The fourth layer, time for the acrylics. First I use gold acrylics. I'd love to have Coliro watercolor paints, but they're pretty expensive, worth their price but still costly. Then I draw fine lashes with the Army Painter acrylics. This time I used pink. Before I started on her, I was dead set on painting the eye shines like an F clef. Since I play the oboe, I'm more of a G clef person, but she's a pianist and well, yeah, F clef it is. And her face-up is done. Writing this part of the manuscript, I still hadn't decided to erase the white acrylics on the lips and go for some Tamiya. I guess you'll find out in the end. To pop the head back on without breaking the face-up, I cut 3 incisions inside the neck. Then I recapitate her. As ears, I decided to use a coffee filter since it has a structure to it, so I painted with some watercolor pencils and then used water. After drying, it looked like this. Really pretty. I sketched and then cut the ears out and then attached them with some hot glue. To make them more realistic, I painted some veins with acrylics and then blushed them with pastels. I mean, they aren't as soft as my rat's ears, but they look pretty good on her. Time to make the hair. As I mentioned, I had some leftover paint from airbrushing, so I used it on some yarn hair that I was making. It works phenomenal, but it's hard to brighten the colors on dark hair. Here I'm alternating between airbrushing and combing the hair. In the end, I leave it overnight to dry completely. And here we have it. It turned out so cool, and I was planning on using it on my musician, but I ended up airbrushing brown yarn instead. It gave it a dusty lilac to the ends. It was super pretty. My mom has always had bangs, so I gave this doll a fringe. Then I added some light pink yarn to brighten it up a bit. Ah yes, this doesn't look so glorious. It needs some severe styling after I make the parting. Here I'm cutting the bangs vertical to soften it. In the end I did some cutting behind the camera and I made an asymmetrical fringe. You'll see in the final pictures. Here she is, a bit misrepresentative since her hair is a bit different now, but you get the main idea. Time for clothes. I decided to use Moonlight Jewel's dress pattern. Then I dove into my fabric boxes and found these that I thought would look good together. Let's make a tiny dress. I cut out the pieces for the top part and followed the instructions. I assembled it by hand sewing at first and then added the skirt part on my sewing machine. I've befriended my little Fuff lately. It has been behaving pretty good, and a happy sewing machine makes a happy customizer. Here are all the pieces for the bodice except the cuffs. I decided to paint little piano keys onto the cuffs. And here it is assembled. Then I added the skirt and I was then finished with the base. It already looked pretty cute, but I wanted to give it some details. I printed some sheet music on paper dyed with coffee. This is Tchaikovsky's Piano Concerto No. 1. It's one of the most known piano concertos. It may be a bit mainstream, but I like Russian composers. I used these pieces, made little scrolls of them, and then glued them to the dress. Before I started on this doll, I ordered some music notes charms from Wish, but they never came. And patience, it's not my strong suit, so I made some from metal wire. Here we have them, so cute! I sewed them onto the dress, but for now let's move on to the shoes. I officially have quite an extensive footwear collection on scale 1 to 6, but still. But since Mouscedes is smaller than the regular Mosnter high dolls, the shoes didn't fit. Sad. I decided to use her shoes instead, but let's chop some pieces off first. Before painting them with UV gel and everything, I cleaned them off with acetone. Then I gave them a base coat before I gave them 3 layers of the UV gel, and then finished it off with a top coat. Here we have them. The world needs more red shoes, in my opinion. For the details, I decided on some bows and sheet music scrolls. And well, why not a little hat? I used some Worbla and craft foam for this, then I used Gara to smooth out the edges. In the end, I added a tiny ribbon to the hat and I was pretty pleased with it. Moving on to the custom stand. I wanted it to look like she's standing among a flowing keyboard, so I made this out of a thin white carton. I was super nervous painting the keys because there's nothing more annoying than this. So it was vital for me to get this right. I'm so glad I have supportive parents, and making this doll for my mother was very special. I put a lot of thought into her. I hope it shows in the end. I'd say that my favorite part was adding the details like scrolls and bows. It just makes her come together. I decided to name her Andante. When I was younger, I was not too fond of the Andante pieces, but now that I've grown up, I can actually enjoy them. Listening, not playing. I'm not calm enough inside to play them. So I started with this, and after 8 hours of work she turned into this. I think this is the 3rd time I'm repainting a Mouscedes, but the first time I used my airbrush for blushing. Here are the earlier 2, both made in 2019. I like looking back on previous repaints I made, especially when I feel like I'm not improving. You know, sometimes you reach a plateau and things go slow for a while. I believe it happens to us all. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you like her. I hope my mom likes her. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and follow me on Instagram. I hope you have a nice day, and may your sewing machine never cause you distress. Bye!